And so here is Dr. Heller on the queens.
The queens are in the next triangle in the order coming downwards, sort of in the upper center of the tree. And what do we have there? Well, we also have still a very high quality, but the quality is sort of more archetypal. We are within the world of archetypes, of sort of the archetypal images, of the kind of creative and imaginative forces of the psyche, which then make for various creative developments. So there is a softer, a more mutable, a more changeable, but still very important and very commanding quality to the queens. Once again, just like all the other court cards, they may refer to persons, but more often than not, they refer to other conditions and psychological factors and developments. They are the prime anima cards in the minor arcana, at least. So they will often stand sort of for the feminine side of a situation. Incidentally, also, keep in mind, for instance, that when you have a king of a suit and the queen of the same suit appearing, then you have a kind of anima-animus balance. You have an important archetypal masculine element and important archetypal feminine element balancing each other. If the king of swords has been chosen for you as the significator, and then the queen of swords turns up in your reading, then it doesn't just mean a conflicted feminine situation, but it also means your feminine side, your anima, as one would call it in Jungian psychology, and the same true of all the various other suits. But so here again we have Queen of Wands, we have sort of the archetypally connected intuitive. The Queen of Swords, we have the highest and sort of the softer, the more pliable, but at the same time still very insightful, intellectual kind of quality. Queen of Cups is, of course, the feminine ruling power of feeling. The sacredness of this feminine feeling element symbolized in the weight deck by a strange, beautiful kind of cup, a covered cup, that the queen holds in her hands, the Queen of Cups, which really comes from the Grail symbolism. So she holds the sacred Grail. Each one holds, of course, all the court cards hold the symbol of their particular suit. And then the Queen of Pentacles is the feminine element, the feminine quality that exercises influence and dominion over the physical and over material things. That's why you have a field with flowers and all kinds of sort of earthly symbols connected with that.
Okay, so the Queen of Wands, full of yellow, very golden card. Personally, I like this card just because it's been the card that turns up to represent myself so frequently in readings that it's become like a joke. Every time I'll be like, oh, so what's going on? And I pick, and boom, it's that card. And I used to have a black cat and all that kind of stuff. So this card has a lot of the fiery symbolism. You've got the lion, you have these sunflowers, which is very generative, and it's you've got the lions in the throne, and this kind of visionary quality. And so in terms of divination, this is somebody who's multitasking. This is a person who's busy. They've got a lot going on. They might be a little bossy, but it's well-intentioned. They're just really busy, and so they're kind of brusque. They are very optimistic generally, don't, oftentimes may break. So in the book, Jeriel, that book that you were showing, that Isabel Radow-Kliegman book,
right?
She talks about, she mentions amoral. So this person being someone who kind of breaks the rules a little bit and, or a lot to suit the needs. And,
yeah, she sees a lot of sexuality in this card too, particularly with her legs spread quite the way they are.
Okay. So that's, I didn't remember that, but that would follow as well. And so this card is just generally one that if it came up as the general subject in a reading, then I would say that you probably are managing a lot of different things. You need to stay on top of it. There may be someone that we're inquiring about who's influential for you, who is maybe your boss or somebody who is has an influence over you. And this is less of a harsh person than some of the other queens perhaps that we'll look at. And if this were in the advice against, then I would say back off. Don't try to manage this situation. Try to take a less leadership role and let others have the sunshine and the spotlight. Don't try to show yourself as too strong, perhaps. Not that you're going to cover up, but that you don't need to be the strong one in every situation. And so if this were in then the advice pursue or recommended position, then I would say you need to really perhaps accelerate the degree to which you are keeping track of things. You need to make sure that everything is really moving along and that you are in control of things. You need to be fair. You need to keep things up and moving. And those are some of the things that come to mind for me with the Queen of Wands. Thank you.
I'll start by commenting that I really like the color scheme on this card so much better than my card, where she's in red and has a red throne. And I think that the yellow, particularly in light of there also being yellow lions and yellow flowers, and I think that she has a very as we were talking about just a minute ago, a very masculine, I think, kind of a way that she's sitting, and the lions have that Leo strength, that real sense of a personal majesty. I think it's also really interesting that besides the sunflowers on her throne, she's holding a sunflower in her hand in place where we've seen scepters among the kings. So the sunflower is her scepter, and I think that is suggestive of some feminine traits that about variability and faithfulness, because the sunflower is named that because it follows the sun as the sun goes by every day. So I think that also, that those kind of things I see showing up in several of the queens. The black cat is certainly a mystical, almost like witchcrafty kind of a thing to just be sitting here in front of the throne. That little pedestal that she's on, even on my card, is also dark and significantly obscures our cat. So I don't know what to make of that. Given that this is in the intuitive field, I would think that this card would have implications about feelings of superiority, that kind of thing. Somebody who's really caught in their higher consciousness. I think that she looks more like a king than any of the other queens. And in general, I think that the queens of wands and swords are very masculine with a lot of their elements, particularly their postures and their expressions. The pinnacle and cups queens are much more feminine, much more motherly, although I think motherly and the whole concept of bringing things into creation is one of the prevailing features of the queens in general. Which one of the Sephiroth are the queens? Are they the three in that middle triangle?
Well,
Or is there one in
Dr. Heller
particular?
has attributed that whole triangle to the queens, but there's other attributions, of course, that we've heard, and I'm sure that Magnus will have some Kabbalistic references for us as soon as you
Well, color-wise, this one really is very much Tippereth, isn't it? And so beauty, that certainly we see a bit of yellow in all of the queen cards, but this one most of all. And I do think that this is a very confident person. In fact, both, I see so much alike in the wands and the swords, and they're both in the fields of consciousness. One at the mental level and the other at the spiritual level. So I think that the wand queen looks a bit more beneficent, but both of them are very, very strong, very confident, and all of the queens are nurturing. But I think that these are more given to the justice issues than they are the mercy issues. Although that Tippereth is in the middle pillar on the tree.
Jeriel, could I ask you what deck that was that you held up the Queen of Wands from?
It's the one that I've told you about that I have that has the back like.
Okay, yeah, the Albano. That's
Right.
the wild black light colors. Okay, I'll try to remember that. Yeah, a favorite of mine. Indeed.
I also have one of these little guys that have the
pastel. Would be
no, this the ones that have kind of a plaid back on them.
Yeah. Those I consider the colors throughout that deck to be a bit more soft, a bit more of a pastel, whereas both the Radiant and the Universal have much more vibrant, although not black light crazy colors like the Albano deck does. But I just I would love to have the time, but I don't right now to have prepared a comparison from 4 decks. I did that for the Fool card, if I may digress here for a moment and show you the Fools from 4 decks. And what you have in the lower right is the Albano deck. The lower left, that's more like the pastel deck with that plaid pattern on the back. The top left, that's the universal that we are generally using because it has the card numbers and the names in them. And the Radiant, which is my favorite as far as the way they've colored it and the brilliance, just everything about the richness of the colors. I moved away from that because it harder to read the numbers and the names. But I just this would have been a good one to have 4 different deck illustration ready to show.
Yeah, this is, as you said, that's the one you were recognizing there.
I appreciated that comparison.
Yeah.
I didn't think of this as Pastelli, the plaid one, but it kind of is compared to the others.
Yeah, I mean, I found that the Radiant deck was almost distracting. I'd be doing a reading and I'd be distracted by the fact that the cards are so beautiful.
Yeah.
So, Jeriel, did you have anything else, or would you like to?
We see that there on the left of the card looks like sand dunes, and on the right of the card looks like maybe a river passing by. It really, and particularly the pyramid shapes, really were very suggestive of Egypt to me. So
yes, as if
night,
as if it's set in near Cairo, where you've got the pyramids, and then I don't want to be in denial, but that maybe that could be a river over there on the right.
You couldn't resist, Brian. You couldn't resist. Those pyramids are also in the Knight of Wands, right? And perhaps even the Page. They all have that kind of
yes,
pyramid desert landscape.
Here's the Page.
The Knight of Wands, you said. Oh yeah, well, yeah, they're certainly pyramid-shaped mountains, aren't they? And what was the card you called up, Jeriel?
Well, and here again, look at this.
Page of Wands.
The Page of Wands, and the Knight of Wands. But my Knight of Wands is dressed in red, just as the Queen of Wands is, and the one that you just showed is in yellow. All the postures and the line drawing would be the same. Also, a thing that I don't like as well is the pyramid shapes in this are blue in the Knight card, and they're light lavender in the Queen of Wand card. So the coloring is very different, and especially now that Magnus has got me looking at the colors of things and then looking at the colors of those Sephiroth. That's a connector that I feel like I'm being misled by my favorite deck, the deck that found me. So maybe that's a suggestion that somehow or another I'm off color.
No,
from all fronts today.
No, it's me and my jokes that are off color. Oh.
Anyway, I'll pass the mic.
And maybe Magnus can step up to the mic at 10. I'm sure he's on the. Oh, looks like you're up and running with a computer and visual.
Yes, I am, but I have another net via the telephone. But that's okay. Yes, Kabbalistically speaking, I think I have been meditated this since last time. I think Dr. Heller's view of where the card is belonging on the Kabbalah is better than the Golden Dawn. Actually, I think the Golden Dawn is doing a red herring and hiding something by place it in Sephiras. Because in Golden Dawn, the queens are in the Bina Sephira, and they are connected to water. but it's easier to see it as Dr. Heller does in the second triangle of the tree of life, because that is the world of the Olam of Bria. So it's much more easier to pinpoint them to the elements. And it's also easier to say that the Queen of Wands is the fire in the world of Olam, instead of saying specific water in primal fire.
Although I think that is what Lang says, isn't it?
Dr. Heller does the same, because the Bina triangle is also water. So it's water in fire, but it's easier to see it in the triangle because that is connected to the element of water. That world is water.
And so the queen is water, and then the fire is the wand?
Yes, yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Looking at it as a card and a picture, I think we see very much a Kabbalistic tree in it, more than in the other cards, because she is holding the wand in her left hand. So it's like she is working out of the pillar of severity, but she is looking at the pillar of mercy, the sunflower. And as Yeriel always has said, there is a lot of yellow, so it's the Sephira Tiferet, and it's a balance in it because it's so much yellow. It's a bit white or gray white or silver gray white, which is the Sephira of Keter then. And it's interesting because Dr. Heller also read the card that this was imbalance. You shouldn't do anything. You should just be in the situation. And I also think the two lions are interesting on the chair or the throne because they are looking both at the past and the future. And the sands is in the past, and the gray or the river or what it is, the water is in the future. And also the cat, if we are looking at the cat, it could be a connection to the Sephira of Bina and Saturn. That Saturn is there also, but not so much. It's much more of the sun energy here. And the sunflower is also indicating this. And I've also looking at the crown, there is some green sprouts in the crown also. So there is like the whole card is saying that you should act naturally, should be in balance. You should let things have its past because the past and the future is the same and you are in the now. I would read it like that. And I've often meditated of the pyramids in the card also. And in the Handley deck I have talked about before, the one suit are connected to Egypt. So he has been inspired by this. And then I should say something about the cards, also the different decks, because there is also the Pamela Coleman-Smith deck with a crackling background that has also been published by A.G. Muller in Germany, but I think it's available in USA also.
Matt Magnus, what was the features of that deck? Because I didn't quite.
That's a light brown crackling glass pattern on the back of the card. It's the second printing they did. They did the first printing with the Tudor rose and the lilies and what it was. But this is the second print. I think it's called the Pam A deck. And it has been reprinted in Germany by A.G. Muller. And they have not they have not forced the color in any way, but they have sharpened the edges on the cards, so it's much better. And it's available as a big deck and a normal size deck. And also there are not on the cards, there are names on the card, but in the English version, there are not Pamela Colman Smith original art in the name. There are a font, but in the German version, there is her original printing of the letters, because they did this as a German version, I think it's in the book also, but they talk about the Palmay deck there and talk about the background pattern, that it's a crackling. I have it, I can show it in a minute when I have found it. But that is, I think, what I want to say. Thank you.
Okay, somebody please step forward.
I just want to add, the animal kingdom is dominant, and the lion being the kingdom of, you know, the cat family, or I don't know how you would call that. It's sort of like the balance of the animal kingdom, the intelligence, the lion's situated above the head or on the head level, as a mind, as that's saying that as the man thinketh. So that's important to know, that intelligence, you know, the cat kingdom is usually associated to intelligence as opposed to the dog. You know, they always say that the cat is smarter or intelligent. So I just want to emphasize the animal kingdom, that's really important, the balance and the adaptability of the two with the physical. Yeah, I just want to add that.
What about for divination purposes? What are your interesting experiences on this card?
Yes, to trust that you do have a strong animal kingdom, or a strong, you're balancing it, and your intelligence, the strong intelligence is there. The mind, as the man thinketh. That's why I emphasize that what stands out for me right now are the two red lions situated where the head center is. So trust your intuition, not so much your intuition, but your mental, your mental balancing with the animal kingdom. So if you're in a situation where there's emotion, trust your mental. You're balanced. I guess that's what I'm getting.
Ala, are you ready to jump in?
The only thing that I can say is, when I was comparing the faces of King of Wands and Queen of Wands, she's definitely more confident, determined, and even masculine than he is presented. He's more feminine between the two of them, and she's more, I don't want to say masculine, but definitely she has these qualities that he does not have. And I have a deck of druids, and it's very interesting. I don't know if it can be seen, the Queen of Wands, how she looks, and I was interested about
Well, put this in front of your face so we could see it.
Okay, is it better now?
Yeah.
Well, it's very distant. If you move towards the lens, do you know where the lens on your iPad is? It's on your left hand, or your right hand, no, left hand side is where the lens is. There you're finding it. And what deck is this?
It's Druids. I don't know if you can see. I'll figure out how to show it, but it's interesting because this queen sits, she wearing the pants, and underneath her is the cat, not like in front of her, but underneath the bench that she's sitting, and there's fire. So I'm comparing those two. I don't know, there's some, there is strength in both of them. This queen definitely shows a lot of strength. I also noticed in the way both of them were, the Queen of Wands, Queen of Swords are sitting straight, and that really tells me about their place in the world, unlike Queen of Pentacles and Queen of Cups. So their body language is kind of more, I don't want to say docile, but they're different. So it's good to have the perspective of all four of them and see the difference in them. So thanks. That's it.
Okay, and Lana?
Well, I see her as a lion queen, queen of lions. So the king is dead, and she's taking over. And don't think because she's a queen, she doesn't have the strength of the man. I actually see this card as very androgynous, you know, but she's very confident that she can do the job. I also, it could represent someone who is kind of leader in the spiritual community, you know. So in some sense, I kind of also relate her with High Priestess. So, and the sunflowers, the lions, these are all, you know, the symbols of zodiac sign Leo, and which is ruled by the sun. So, and she looks you right in your eyes. She's kind of burning you with her gaze, you know, and there's some sort of a, you know, magnetism around her. She's confident of her powers, and she might have powers that are beyond the ordinary. Most likely she has psychic abilities that she can control. That's all I have.
So I will jump in and say that, of course, with wands, we're always looking about vision and being able to really see a great distant, you know, not focused on or distracted by things in the immediate area, but really taking the long view. But in all the discussion that we've had, I've enjoyed the idea that this is like life, because you have all these plant life, and the beasts are very much alive, and you have the sun, which is like the sunflower, meaning always looking at the light, bringing more light into the world. And I do mean it in the light of consciousness sense. And the two lions, you know, the two of them add up to a 360-degree view. You know, yes, I appreciated that one may be looking towards the past and one towards the future, but they between them, they've got a full view. And you know, the cat, certainly cats are fairly wise, and the confidence of this kitty, and of course the cats are, they're people think they're aloof, but I loved hearing about some study that said when given the choice of of companionship or food, that the cats actually would choose companionship. So it's a very much, as I would expect in wands, to be very much about consciousness and bringing more light into consciousness. And of course, in divination, most often, because we use the court cards, we use the kings and queens mostly for significators. You know, when this is the significator card for a woman's reading, you know that the very much the issue that the entire reading is going to be based around is on insight and vision, clarity and light. And so I think that concludes my little presentation. And so do we want to banter back and forth a bit about this before we visit the
before we
Queen of
go,
Pentacles?
What are we to make of the toe of the left foot peeking out from under the Queen's garb here? Once again, the one that I have, the foot is red as it is here, but the dress being red, you couldn't distinguish that the foot was poking out. So it seems like there's something kind of peeking out from behind the clothing of this this figure.
I would say you should start out with action from the pillar of mercy if you should do it.
Because
But the
that foot
power,
is forward then, right?
yes, yes. I read the foot, the feet also always as there is the first action you should take in the situation. And you should have a balance in the pillar of severity with the form in reality, but you should act out of the pillar of mercy. But you should also act from mildness from the middle pillar, because you are balanced in Tiferet.
And that's where our cat is sitting.
Yes, it is. And also, she is sitting on a fundament of white, and that is, she is sitting on a fundament of the Sephira Keter of the crown. So she is in total balance, and she has a divine, a power of divination, the divine in her power in some way, I think. And also, I see something interesting, Yaril, and that is your Masonic floor pattern is on her dress.
Yes, the checkerboard, yes, there.
Yes,
right,
yes.
Right on in the middle of her chest.
Yes.
What do you think of the sleeves? Look at those brown things. They look like hands to me.
Yes, they are interesting.
Very interesting. You know what? I think the thing was just showing you just a little bit of her foot. It's basically she doesn't really, you know, she kind of hides, you know, her humanity. She's kind of like a superhuman, but she kind of gives us just a little taste of what is out there by showing just the tip of her, you know, shoe. Yeah, I am human, but you know, probably most likely, but I am hiding it, you know, because I'm a queen and I'm a superhuman. I'm kind of above you.
Now, what was it that you wanted to know?
The name of the card, the secret name,
Oh,
the golden.
Queen of the Thrones of Flame, Queen of the Salamanders or Salamandrines.
Mm.
And it says here, the last decant of Pisces and the first two decants of Aries.
Yes.
That's certainly a resurgence of the power of life, isn't it? You know, the Aries is pushing through, and the
They-
will to manifest, you know, pushing through the barren earth to have spring manifest again.
Now that you've gotten me to open the Robert Wang book, his final comment on the Queen of Wands is, Waite's card appears to stress the warmth and attractiveness of this queen when she is well aspected, while also suggesting that she has the potential for violence and tyranny. I don't see that there, but you know, there's no shortage of opinions.
It could be if she is starting acting only out of the pillar of severity, it could be very tough, I think.
You know, I have this interesting deck. It's called Tarot Illuminati. And in this deck, they call her, it's very interesting, Queen of, what is it? Sorry, just lost her for a minute. The flowing beauty of fire.
What is it?
The flowing beauty of fire. And the themes and concepts: seduction, charming person, charisma and beauty, somebody who enjoys hosting social events.
That sounds like,
but
that
I
sounds
like
like-
the flowing beauty of fire.
It sounds like fortune telling meanings.
Right.
Okay, the Queen of Pentacles is she's in this very lush surrounding. There's the bower of roses, and then she's got the undulating ground with some of those little mushrooms or the flowers. We talked about them last time. They're on the right there, and then some colors. You've got the mountains. It's a very fabulous background here. I'm just now noticing the throne that seems to have, are those goats? Is that Capricorn, the goat on her?
It is on the arm of the.
And
Okay.
another
Right.
context that we see Capricorn is in the figure of the devil, but that's the earthliness of the Capricorn, that kind of isn't the longest day of the year, the longest night of the year in Capricorn. It's the most earthly, and there's also pears and fruit on the throne behind her, like carved into the stone, and even down onto the seat below her and behind her knees. She has both feet showing, perhaps like we were talking about before, that this is a full sign of her humanity. She's got a lot of, so that's there. There's a little bunny rabbit, that Isabel Kliegman book. I remember she mentions that that's kind of a sign that the awareness of time passing. So in terms of divinatory meanings, oh, and by the way, I never noticed before the little crouching child on the throne, which I find very interesting. So perhaps there's maybe it's about the role of motherhood, or perhaps an inner child. Maybe somebody wants to speak to that. There also seems to be an angel or a cherub up above her head, above her interesting crown, which I don't know what to make of the crown. So divinatorially, what I would say with the Queen of Pentacles, let's say she comes in as the summary of the reading, is that there's a real concern for making sure that material things are taken care of. You got to make sure that, so this is really about house and home, or it's about, there's a real homestead kind of thing going on with the Queen of Pentacles and the management of those things. The bunny is, the rabbit is an awareness of time. That's also fertility. But so this could be about the concerns. It could be about, so it might be that the big concern could be very literally, I want to have a baby and I'm concerned that time is ticking. or it's really about how am I going to take care of this, the job and the house and the kids and the family and all these things that I have to take care of, which are part of this earthly life and being a queen of the earthly life. And then in terms of if it were a recommendation against, I would say don't be so concerned about taking care of everybody. Don't avoid feeling like you need to be the caretaker and you are the manager and you can free yourself perhaps of that role, and it would maybe do good for you to pick up your eyes from the pentacle and look beyond, because she's really concentrating on the materiality, and maybe it's time to look up from the materiality and see what's beyond, and something that's more than just the earthly life. If this were the recommendation to pursue, then I would say that definitely it is time to put down some roots, to make sure that that environment is a healthy one, to take care of your health, to make sure that your physical body is okay. And it might be good to just get an overview of your physical state, to make sure that your whole house is in order. You know, you can use these metaphors in terms of health, but also and home. So those are some things that come to mind with the Queen of Pentacles. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll follow up on on that, because my thinking is a lot like yours, Allison, and we've read some of the same stuff too. I liked her story about when she wanted to buy a rabbit and she wanted to get 2 rabbits so that the one wouldn't be lonely, and the pet person, or the person she's getting the rabbit from, says, well, if you get 2 males, they're gonna fight, and if you get a male and a female, this time next year you'll have countless rabbits. But this card, I really like this card. I'm drawn to this card more strongly than to any of the other of the Queen cards. And I just did something that caused me, there it goes, that caused me to lose my my picture. Let me restore it here somehow. How do I get back to, oh yeah, here we go. Where is, oh, I can't make it go full screen, but I'll continue with my thoughts anyway. I think this being feminine energy in the physical world, I see this person very much as the mother symbol, even as Mother Nature. The way she's looking down wistfully and adoringly at the pentacle in her lap reminds me of a Madonna and Child, or a Pietà, and seeing as how those are at the beginning, at the end of the life cycle. I see the card representing all of the stages of the life cycle. The thing that was already noted about the bunny rabbit down there, bunnies are really prolific breeders, and they have fairly short lifespans. That's why I really wouldn't recommend them for a pet. I had a girlfriend once with a rabbit as a pet, and it was a real pest. But so I'm put in mind of the idea that as we progress through the stages of life, one stage dies and the next stage is born. So I see that this card could relate to things like having a child, but given that what this represents is the mother who brings things of physical form into the world. It represents birth, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a child. It could be artistic inspiration or a novel, some kind of creativity. So I think it's really creativity that has a product. And in terms of divination, I would see a naturing person, fertile possibilities, life changes, a domestic, family life, something to do with children and siblings, parent issues like was just mentioned the possibility that if, in fact, I think this is one of the things that Isabel Kliegman mentions in her book, that if the querent is a woman, looking at the possibility of them having issues about having a child, not being able to have a child, the loss of a child. But I think that this is the queen that is the most nurturing of all of them. I think feminine energy is fundamentally nurturing, but I think this one is particularly that. And so I would say that the good side of it has to do with that nurturing. The bad side of it would be the bad side of most parenting, trying to be controlling, trying to direct what somebody else is doing with their life, and another one of the stories that Kliegman, I think that it was about this card she was talking about, because her mother made her eat her vegetables, that her her own, she doesn't do that with her own child, and then her own child, her favorite vegetable is half a bag of potato chips. But I do see in all of these cards the feminine, and maybe it's a bit of a stereotype, but that feminine, that women are mysterious, hard to understand, given toward changing. So perhaps there's a possibility in here of jealousy, that kind of thing. Although I see that a lot more in the Queen of Cups. I think that's about all I've got to say. Oh, I can give you the name of this card if you like. Let me get back here. This is Pentacles. Wands, Cups, Swords, Pentacles. Queen of the Thrones of the Earth. Queen of the Gnomes. Gnomes. No. Yes, I did Pentacles. That's right. I got it right. And Wang's closing comment on this says that Mathers, Crowley, and Waite all agree that the goat was the appropriate animal symbol for this card because it represents Capricorn. And that we noticed right off the goats on the throne. And now I'll pass to somebody else while I try to figure out how to get myself back to full screen. There it is. All right.
Should I go? I see it also as a balance in a reading, but also we have talked about this. There is a sort of unwilling balance also. The feminine unwilling balance, that you have a mission that you need to take care of, if it is a family or it is a project or something, and it will very much, but the way to the giving in the situation is quite stale. It's not dynamic. You are in it and you have to accept it. And I've also meditated a bit here about all the red colors in this card, because that is then connected to the Sephira of Gibon and Mars energies. And I think that is the power in the situation that she has, that she can stand this situation because she has the power. And it's also the green there, and it's the Sephira Hod then with all the creative thinking and everything. It will be better, it will give something one day, and so and so. And there is also a lot of fruit on the chair, so there is things growing, there is things, but she is so in her responsibility, so she doesn't see it, because she has to take care of the situation at this and all the responsibilities. And I think that is the child in the hidden in the chair. That is her inner child that has not been able to play, because there are so much responsibility in the situation. So you just have to be responsible, but you can't have fun in the situation, because you have to see to all things that is around, or your creative project or what it is, you have to take responsibility for. And looking at it on the Kabbalah and the triangle of Braya, then the watery triangle, and then the element of earth, that creates mud if you mix them together. And there is a bit of a muddy situation, but still you have to be in it and you have to do the best of it. I would also say this is the state before your project have taken form, or before your investment has gained you something, but you know it will gain you something. And the rabbit, I also see that there is playful things around. There is things that want to play with you, but you don't have the energy to see them because you concentrate your power in the situation. And she is looking at the pentacle in her lap there, and she's only looking at it. And I'm also seeing the angel that Alison is talking about in the chair. So there is some support if she was able to see it. And also the red thing on the head is interesting, because it could be a red horseshoe, and then it is pointed at the wrong direction, because it won't give any energy, because the horseshoe is symbolizing the planet movement, the arch of the planet. All people that don't know that think it should be open to receive, but it isn't that symbology. It is the arch that gives it the energy. So have it that way, you won't get any energy, you won't get any luck in the situation. So that is what I think I want to say. Thank you.
I'd like to add something to what Marcus was saying. It sounds like right on tune. Also, I would, as divination, I would also point out, if you're afraid to move forward on your creativity or whatever goal you're going after, and you're afraid, look at the abundance around you. Look at nature, that there's abundance, generosity in nature itself, that there's cycles, there's new life, and there's, the fall, the spring. However, to emphasize the abundance in all the cards, This is the one that she's not as serious. I don't know if you've noticed the other expressions. The other expressions have a serious, face or mouth. And with her, I see her almost smiling if she only chooses to take that step, if she moves forward and seeing the rabbit time, Thanks, Allison. I always wanted to ask about the rabbit because I think it's also used in ancient times as a symbol. And I haven't read about that. So thanks. Yeah, time.
That came from that Isabel Kliegman book, so I don't know if it's a more universal thing or just part of her commentary, but yeah, interesting.
Yes.
Following up on what you were saying, Christine, about the fear element, that seems to me to be reflected in the posture of that figure that's on the side of the. It seems like they're kneeling on their knees and they've got their hand kind of up like something is frightening that they're looking at.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah. That sometimes we're afraid, yeah, to move on or to make that step.
I had been trying to figure out what that looked like, and when you started talking about fear, that's what came to me.
Yeah. And also the goat, the goat represents ability to overcome obstacles, when they're climbing mountains and, they're able to climb over it and, get it done,
Scale impossible heights, yes.
Heights, yeah.
Okay, before we really trade the banter around, I'd like to ask Lana to jump in, and then after Lana, Alla, if you would join us.
Well, for me, this card speaks of Mother Earth. It's a very, sensual image, and the rabbit represents fertility. And what I'm looking at is the spring. So the Capricorn totally does not resonate with me. I mean, during the Capricorn, we are, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, we're in the winter and the land is barren. But here it's in the full bloom. So I would say what resonates with me is Venus in Taurus, and so it's, fertility, responsibility of taking care of the physical universe, of the planting, flowers and planting ideas, creativity and responsibility, definitely, responsibility. And it looks like she is overburdened with it, and concerned for the earth. I think that's all I have to say.
I'll skip.
I want to
Well-
piggyback a little bit on what you were saying, Lana, in terms of the responsibilities, because I think that the Queen of Wands also has these responsibilities, but she's more like the manager. She's more like the one saying, do this and do that and do this. And she's like managing from the kitchen or from the house. And this one is more, she's like in the garden and she's making things. It's more, so the Queen of Wands isn't necessarily cooking. She's just kind of, that's like command center of the house. But the Queen of Pentacles might be the one who's cooking everything up, and she's putting the flowers in the vases, and she's making sure that everybody's feeling okay, and she's wrapping the gifts, and she's doing, so there's different kind of levels of responsibility there, which might be relevant to someone who's coming in for the reading.
Well, that's totally it's totally Venus in
Okay.
Taurus. It's the doer of things, It's someone who works with their hands.
Yeah, I think it's people that are creative across the board. That this is bringing forth new life, new concepts, new products, new works, new ideas.
It's also, if you are looking at the pentacle in her lap, we see it as the spiritual symbol because one point is up, but she is seeing it with 2 points up, and that is the materialistical symbol. And she is acting out of the material world, but we see it as a spiritual image in some way. But her balance in the situation perhaps to us looks like it's a spiritual handling of the situation, but I don't think she see it that way. She see it like there is a responsibility, there is all this, there is what you say, Lana, the in Taurus, the Venus in Taurus there.
So pentacles, of course, being the closest to physical reality. A lot of people like to assign pentacles to actual reality, and some like to even speak of money or resources. But I always like to kind of hearken back to well, to Malkuth, for example. You know, Malkuth is considered the final what would be consciousness, final psychological, spiritual, all the 4 quadrants coming together just before actual reality, and so with pentacles, we are again, we're in the realm of the senses. The senses bring us the reality of the world we live in, the reality that includes our bank account, but it also includes the garden and the rain and the mud. Here in the west of the United States, we're getting pummeled by rain, mudslides up north, but the water and the earth get along very well. It makes for a great deal of fertility and opportunity for things to grow. But when the queen shows up as the significator, it's really going to be very much as close to a physical reality as a divination will get. In other words, when we have the Queen of Pentacles as a significator, it's really going to be a rather existential. It's going to be about your experience through of all these themes in your real world. And it is this particular version is beautifully colorful. I do find it interesting, as a side note, that the throne is entirely in black and white in this version. And once again, I wish that I had comparison imagery to see what other decks, what other artists have done with color scheme. But it's certainly the vibrant life, the presence of all the elements, you know, the outdoors, the light from the sun and the water and the earth. And I assume that there's some air blowing through there. Very, very vibrant and very real to our experience, certainly.
Brian,
I think if I have to add one phrase to this, to me, she represents physical manifestation of divine.
Say that again, Lana.
Physical manifestation of divine.
And that's really what the entire tree of life and really all divinatory modalities represent. They represent the divine reaching us where we live. to me, that's what divination is. And so I like that comment there. Shall we, any final comments before we move to our Lady of the Sword?
She has both her feet on the ground.
Yeah, and then one of the readings that we did early on in the series, Brian, there was a woman who had, I believe, this is a significator and then some other pentacles in the mix.
It
And
was me.
no, it wasn't. It was actually somebody else who had to do her like trust for her family.
Yes, I
doing the trust period.
remember. Yes, that was Virginia.
Virginia. And so she was in charge of the money and what was going to happen with the money. And I think the Justice card came up. And so there was all of this about how was she going to be divvying up this thing that she was in charge of. And so it was quite literal, you know, in terms of the place where the concentration is put and all that kind of stuff. So sometimes there's directionality and Brian, I appreciate the way you go straight to the images and you use words for the images that are very apt to use as an analogy.
Last call on the Queen of Pentacles before we going once, twice. And Allison, why don't you speak of Our Lady of the Edges?
The divorcee, the widow, the breaker-upper, the decision maker. This is a hard card, kind of to be on the receiving end of. It can be kind of liberating if you're the one doing it, but that can be rather cutting. So she's in profile. The decision may be one-sided and rigid. The way the sword is held is different from the sword of the king, which is more at an angle, which represents that there's, you know, mitigating circumstances or some other angles to consider. She's indicating with her hand the direction to go. There's a very clear sense of leadership and mandate. This is an intellectual card, so the decision must be made and we must proceed. So it's not a lot of warmth necessarily. This person, in terms of before we get off, this is one of those cards in the swords where the wind and the air is very well depicted. The trees and the blustering clouds, and this is the one with the birds in the sky there. So the air and that element is very much there. There's also an angel in the throne, plus a lot of butterflies. So a lot of transformation and higher purpose. The throne is made of butterflies. So, and then her cape is made of clouds, which is an interesting little pattern I hadn't really seen until now. It makes me want to look at my own deck to see how that one is colored, because this one is quite striking that way, and I don't know if I've seen that before. She also has little tassels on her wrists, and that's red, and perhaps that is significant, the red on either arm. But certainly one direction is being indicated and taken, and there's no kind of qualms or consideration. If this is the summation of a reading, to me, then we are dealing with some kind of a separation, some kind of a divorce, some kind of a walking away, some kind of asserting yourself and your own needs in a situation. It may be the person or just the circumstance where the decision has to be made, but often it is the person. This can be, I've done readings where it was very literally, I said, you might be a widow, and they're like, yes, that's a very recent thing. How did you know? So this idea of having to do things on your own, having to make the decisions on your own, that there may be the loneliness of leadership or of rule there. So if that were the overall, then I think that you're dealing with some kind of a situation of a divorce, a separation, some kind of a movement from the existing to whatever is next. In terms of if it were the advice against, then I would say you might be wanting to make this break, but hold off. It's not advised at this point. You're only seeing one side of the issue. Even though you might feel very strongly and like you're very entitled to make this decision, it may not be the correct thing for your development or for the situation itself, even though circumstances might add up. It might be the circumstantial evidence might add up, but it may not be the truth, something like that. And then if this were advice positive, then it seems like you may have been delaying and now it really is time to drop the hammer, make the decision, make the move, move out, move on, cut the cords. There's a lot of expressions that even kind of visually and verbally depict that process. So that's all for me right now. Thank you.
Yeah, I really saw a bit of the loneliness of at the top from the symbolism in this as well. That I took that part by how she literally rises above the clouds. You know, I think that that's a very high and mighty kind of position, and above her head there's flying a single bird. And here again, my crummy coloring on this card.
It's not crummy, it's just fun.
Well, no, I mean on my card, the cape that she's wearing in mine, the background is gold instead of blue, whereas clearly blue is the right color because, as was formerly noticed, it's a picture of the clouded sky. She's not out, just sitting out in the open air in the clouded day, but she's actually enrobed herself with a cloudy sky. And I see in this a very strong will, a very strong intellect, an authoritative, decisive person. I think the way that she's holding the sword, which is exactly the way that the almighty hand is holding it in the Ace of Swords. And the fact that it's straight up vertical, I think symbolizes justice, but also it can symbolize being too certain, too authoritative, dictatorial, perhaps. And the confidence that's exuded could also suggest in the negative conceit and aloofness. Somebody else saw the hand as being dismissive, but I actually saw it as beckoning or offering something, and I saw it as maybe mitigating the severity. But if it is actually dismissive, it's emphasizing the severity. I think that the butterflies indicate, transformation, that form, from going into the chrysalis, being a caterpillar, and then a chrysalis, and then a winged, beautiful, fluttering in the sky. The trees and everything is far off. She seems to be out by herself a lot, and again, it seems that she's isolated in a way, and again, getting back to that, the heavy responsibility of this kingly kind of a stand that she's making. Maybe she's a Queen Elizabeth, you know, as strong and stronger than the man, but given her femininity, she remains unmarried because she is not going to give up that power to another person, especially a man back in the era when husbands owned their wives. But I see this as very, very independent, very strong, very decisive, and if it is, you know, it's a divinatory situation. You're trying to decide what to do. Being too stiff, too committed to what your first impression of justice was. Maybe this is whatever it is that you're contemplating needs some more thought, needs some more time in the chrysalis before it breaks out and you're getting fulfillment of being the beautiful butterfly. That's it.
What about the Golden Dawn title?
Oh yeah. The title of this card is Queen of the Thrones of Air, Queen of the Sylphs and Sylphides. I don't think that the Golden Dawn titles for the court cards are nearly as informative as their titles for the numbered cards.
Well, I would have to agree with you. That's a lot of the other titles were a lot more fun than we have here. So Magnus.
Yes, thank you, Brian. I think the Golden Dawn has deliberately hidden the meaning in the. They don't want to be so open about the court cards, I think. But this is then air in the triangle of water in the Briar world, and as Alison already has said, it's a lot of air. It's like a river flowing in a storm, I see this card as. And you are going forward, and you should accept going forward in the situation because you have the power in the situation. And looking at the card, I see she is not acting out of Martian energies because there are very little red in the card, but she holds the sword in the Pillar of Severity hand. So she is willing to fight, but she is in a balance, so she doesn't have to fight. But if it comes to that, she is capable of doing that. And it is a lot of white in the card, so it's a lot of divine power in the card from the Keter Sephira. And the cloudy other garment there, I think that is one of the higher colors in the Golden Dawn. I think it's the prince or the page or the knight color schemes, because there are white and blue there. I think it is, and then it's strikes of orange also. So there is Sephira Hod with thinking there, logical thinking in the situation, but not taking overhand, just balance and doing what you should do. And there is calm in the card. There is calm in the storm, I would say, when I look at it. And I also see there are butterfly in the crown. I haven't seen that before. So it's actually, when you are looking at the card, it is quite calmly looking at it, but still you are feeling the energies in the card, and she is going forward. She is welcoming something. That is the other hand there for the Pillar of Mercy, and she is welcome the situation, whatever it is, because she is prepared. She is prepared for it. That is what I want to see, I think. I want to say, I think. Thank you.
Well, to me, this card, speaks of coldness. The colors are, if we're looking, they're very cold. There is very little warmth here. So it's someone who is making decisions based on their intellect, not on their feeling. And it's also someone, who is ready to for confrontation, and someone who is going to defend their way of life, their ideas, and no compromise here. That's all I have to say.
Who would like to go? Who hasn't gone? Going once, going twice.
I'll jump in for a moment, Brian. Just noticing, it's nice to have all four of these images up, because the Queen of Pentacles has a mantle of green, which is very much life and growth and plants and the water in the earth. And the Queen of Wands has a kind of, I don't know what color that is, but it's the color of intuition in the air, and maybe it's a non-color. And then the Queen of Swords has the blue with the clouds, and the Queen of Cups has the blue with the kind of watery emblem. So each of those blues is distinguished one from the other. I wanted to also notice in the throne, below, right in the kind of above the feet of the throne, are like sickles. Similar to like hammer and sickle. Like, look at the Queen of Cups. She has sickles like from this old Soviet flag, hammer and sickle. There's these sickles on each of these, and that's a farm implement for harvesting and for cutting and for, cutting through, perhaps, like transformation will do. And so I'm not sure what it means in the Queen of Cups yet, but I guess we're coming to her. And just now noticed those elements in the detail of the throne and of the Queen of Cups's cup.
Alison, where do you see that in the?
I'm seeing it so down right above. There's a butterfly right by the feet of the throne,
Right.
And then above that are two sickles kind of bumping each other.
Yes. Harvest. That's
Harvest, exactly. And then on the Queen of Cups on the left there, you can see hers. There's the very black sickles on her cup.
Yep.
And the handle of those sickles is colored to look like the rest of the frame of the throne on my card, and then the coloring of all three of the butterflies and the crescents there make it look like the crescents are crescent moons rather than sickles.
This is the symbol that used in astrology to depict black moon Lilith, the dark feminine, the shadow feminine.
The back-to-back crescent moons, right?
Yeah.
Lilith.
Lilith.
Lilith is certainly is not Lilith perhaps one of the archetypes within this character?
Yeah. I mean, she has many faces.
Yeah.
Kali, Lilith, Medusa, Gorgon, and very interesting feminine archetype.
Well, there's a certain amount of fun of getting in the last word, and I shall indulge myself in that. And like the king, she is above the fray of all the trouble that the swords are going to get into thinking-wise. being feminine, she has an emotional tone behind her that I feel that she is the one who really can feel the truth, can think clearly, because she knows that thinking is riding on a turbulent sea of emotion, and she has every right. It's completely appropriate, I feel, for her to be calling out what should be done, what should be thought, what should be perceived with her hand. She's literally conducting the world, and I think she does so with wisdom, because she's got the emotional foundation on which to have clear thinking. And I don't consider that to be a tough or abusive or in any way arrogant or anything. I really relish in the merging of emotion and thought in about as wise a position as it's going to be with the Queen of Swords.
And as you were speaking just now, Brian, I noticed for the first time that the forms on her crown are more butterflies. It appears that there's one each facing front, back, left, and right. So on the left and right of our image, we're just seeing half a butterfly, and in the middle you see the full butterfly with both wings, in that same shape as the butterflies below. So I think that again adds more emphasis to the changeability and the progression through life stages.
I can't help but think of those as orchid flowers, and it might have something to do with it, that there's about 30 orchid buds. About 8 of them have opened already in my kitchen. Anyway, I'm just making a little light there, as I can't help myself. And so now, shall we enjoy the Queen of Cups?
Okay, so our Queen of Cups she's a watery lady, and she's got little mermaid cherub children above her throne there, and the throne has made of a shell. There's another little mermaid child with a fish down on the bottom. The rocks from the sea have been tumbled and smoothed by the water. There are some of the white cliffs in the background there. And she has a pink, at least in this coloration, the clasp that's holding her cape is pink and perhaps a shell. Her crown looks kind of fish scaly, perhaps, or mermaid leggy. She's got that massive covered grail cup, the royal cup of all time, that she's contemplating. And so this is water and water, I'm assuming, from the formulas that we've been operating, and that certainly is the feel. It's a very watery, emotional, introverted, introspective figure. If you're an old Star Trek fan, I just had a vision of that old empath. I don't know, she was like on the couch going, "Oh, I'm feeling all the pains of the world."
Marina, right?
Was that her character name? I can't remember.
No,
It just
I think
flashed me now.
the
Old funky TV, And but I just had that flash of so much receptive, emotional empathy or sympathy going on here. this idea of contemplation. So if this were the overall card in a reading, it would seem like you're really doing some self-examination, that you're really considering how things are feeling, and perhaps processing a big emotional experience. Perhaps this is you're inquiring about someone who perhaps is a worrier, a mother who's very delicate and so needs to be kind of taken care of, perhaps. If this were advice negative, then I would say you need to toughen up a little bit and not be so sensitive. It's not about you, and you need to get a little bit out of yourself and see the rest of the world around you, because they are also experiencing this and you're not the only one experiencing it. So though your feelings are valid, they're not the only things in play. That might be one of the advice cards there. If this were the advice pro, then I would say that you need to maybe slow down. It may be that you're riding too roughshod over other people's feelings, and it's important for you to consider how these things are impacting people emotionally, and what might be the emotional field in play, that you need to increase your emotional intelligence and to increase the nurturing and the consideration of other people's situation in whatever it is that is the subject of the reading. So that's my thing on Queen of Cups right now.
I think the real salient feature besides water in this is that elaborate chalice that Dr. Heller related to the Grail legends. It's also interesting that those winged angels on the sides are very reminiscent in shape of the figures on the Ark of the Covenant, which also suggest religious kind of things, and religion, in contrast to spirituality, in my opinion, is very emotional. And her where she's sitting, she's got really one foot on the land and the other foot in the water, and the cloak that she's wearing almost looks like water streaming off of her as well. So she's really surrounded by water, and then you have the light blue sky. So a lot of emotion here. She's the Queen of Thrones of water, and it is water on water, and specific water in the world of primal water. I think that the kind of chalice it is, that it's closed like that, kind of suggests that there's something hidden inside, and it's kind of suggestive in that way of having the potential to be like a Pandora's box. If you follow your emotions, you don't know what kind of powerful forces for good or evil may be released by that kind of a process. She seems really totally fixated on that, and I don't know. It's also it's golden. I think it suggests wealth, perhaps extravagance. Is her attachment to this greed or generosity. I'm not sure. I think that it does though represent potentially the best and the worst of desire, true love and devotion as a possibility, but also the possibility of suspicion and jealousy and those kind of things coming about it. I think the one foot on the sand and the other on the water, again, would say changeability to me, and again this idea that particularly in the emotional world, women are considered a little bit unhinged. Remember back in the 19th century, they had this whole concept of hysteria, and a lot of the remedies for it were basically getting lonely women to come by having for a release of emotions by I don't know if they're quacks or pre-psychology psychologists or what, but that seems suggestive of this card. I think the
You're the
child
inventors of the vibrator.
yeah, exactly. That you became the do-it-yourself then. And the child holding the fish suggests Pisces to me, and the symbol is two fish bound together. So I would see that a lot of this suggests when in a divinatory circumstances, relationships and what the ties are between the two parties in an emotional relationship. And I do think it's very interesting. It looks like she's on the seaside at Dover from the cliffs there, and having this magnificent precipice in the background also indicates to me the possibilities that following your emotions, if you're not careful, you can go over the cliff. That's it.
Should I go? Oh, Lana, do you want to go?
Oh, I just want to say quickly, it does resonate to me with the Venus and Pisces, and it's also someone who is fish out of the water, and we know that fish cannot live on the Earth only for very limited time. So I'm thinking of the fairy tale of the mermaid, who sacrificed her life in order to be with a human mortal man. And that's all I have to say. I think she is looking at this, chalice and contemplating, was it worse or not?
And those children, all three of them, do appear to be mermaids.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have legs; they have scaly bottoms, like the fish bottom of a mermaid. In fact, it looked. No, I thought I saw something else, but maybe not.
Yeah, they look kind of little fishy to me.
I have looked at the chalice for some time, and I haven't seen that before. The chalice looks also like a small goddess or something with his arm up, and the upper part is the head. And as has been said already, this is water in water, and it is a lot of water, I think, because she is into the situation. And the shell also, if I'm not mistaken, it's a pilgrim shell. So it's also a pilgrimage in this. She is devoted in her way, and she is also looking in the direction of the past. So I think she is very much in the past, and I think she is caught in the situation, and she perhaps need to look around herself also to some responsibility to other things than just this, because it's a lot of devotion of what she is looking at, or what she is treasuring. And perhaps she sees more in it than there is, perhaps. And there is a lot of white color, so it's a lot of Keter here, and it's also the other mantle, the outside mantle, that is another color scheme of the Golden Dawn, and also the little pink that holds it all together. I think it's the king scale, and then it's pink, and then it is Tiferet. So there is a bit of balance in the situation, but I think the balance is also there because she is so devoted in the situation, but perhaps she should not be so devoted. In a reading, perhaps it could indicate that there is a person that is looking too much to the past, or that is too much in something, feeling something very much. So there need perhaps to be some fire or some other elements in this to balance the situation in a reading, if you look at it. And there is a lot of water. I think of the association I get, which Lana can explain, that is two fishes together, or there is a Capricorn or a fish in a relationship, because they are trying to either they rise or they drown together. So that is the vibration I get from the card. I think that is all. Thank you.
And from what,
I just wanted to say, this chalice, reminds me of the magic lamp of the Aladdin. And I think when she looks at that, maybe the genie is going to come out. I think she's contemplating.
Okay, I would like to ask that anybody who has not been able to make a presentation yet, we have had a tendency to move towards exchange and banter, which is great, but I would like everybody to have a turn before we do that.
I'd like to comment on that card.
Hey, Angela.
Hi.
Hi.
So I'm very much drawn to the item that she's holding in her hands, and it really, really does remind me, well, first of all, it's gold. I'm thinking like if it's made of solid gold, just like her crown is. And I'm thinking of, because water, the association of water has to do a lot with transformation, and in an alchemical kind of way, I'm looking at it, gold being what you're after, through transformation, you're after that gold, that inner gold. You're seeking, your inner gold, who you really are and such. And so she's looking intently at this item, which to me really does remind me of the Ark of the Covenant, but more so it's what comes to mind is the Holy of Holies. Where was the Holy of Holies? It was in the inside of the temple. Your body is a temple, and who you find out who you really are by really looking inside, the inner, like the innermost of your inner being is where you find the real you. That's where you find the gold, so to speak. And so, and yeah, you know, those two little figures on the sides, to me, they're the like the seraphim, you know, with the wings arcing over, and the figures are holding their hands, you know, clasped together like in prayer, and they're each facing the middle of that enclosed area, which again, just I keep thinking Holy of Holies, and the gold, the association with the gold, um, the true reason, or the true thing that the alchemist was pursuing was the gold, the real thing. You know, this is the, you know, the what the alchemist was after was the gold, but it's that gold that has transformed, you know, like that's the real you. So anyway, that's, and then again, water has to do with a lot with transformation too. There are stories depicted in what's that? I'm sorry, it's not the spiritual Islam. I forget what it's called.
Sufism?
Sufism. Thank you. There's a lot of stories, Sufic stories, that they're like fables, and there might be something regarding water, you know, where something fell in the water and it got put back together. It all came together, and you know, water was like a whole symbol of transformation, changing form, that kind of thing. So again, you know, combining with the alchemical symbolism of gold and the water, you know, transformation, the Holy of Holies, your innermost being, that's where you find the gold, so to speak. And so her looking intently at that item that she's holding, it's like, look inside, you know, you find the trueness is, you know, you have the Holy of Holies inside of you. And that's that the way that card speaks to me. Thank you.
Can I add?
Christina,
Yeah, I just want to add the both cards of the sword of queen, the Queen of Swords, and the cups, they're both receptive cards. If you see, they're similar in colors. Also with the Queen of Swords, it's taking your stand. Whether, you know, what's going on, you're taking your stand. And the Queen of Cups, I pick up where you're receptive, and there's also how do you get over the emotions, and, you know, in whatever decision you're making, trust your intuition. That's where the water just comes out. And it's, and whatever decision you're in at this time, move forward with it. I see prosperity, you know, whether it's emotion, I mean, whether it's a decision in career or whatever decision you're at this time, to move forward with this, with the Queen of Cups, through your intuition, as opposed with Queen of Swords, take your stand. You know, sort of like she has her hand up, as that's the receptive hand. You're receiving, but however, you're also taking your stand. That's what I get. That's it.
I'm now seeing her look as kind of wistful, and with her head slightly bowed, maybe a bit sad. And it's coming to me now that maybe this has to do with longing for something that was lost, a lost love perhaps, or missed opportunities in life, unused creativity perhaps, as something that was going on.
I appreciate that. that wistfulness, the things that might have been kind of feeling. Also, Angela, I appreciate that idea that those two black figures on either side of the cup are these seraphim who are praying. I can definitely see that now where I never saw it before, and that makes a lot of sense in this position. Thank you.
So, okay, I'd like to jump in here and say that the chalice of the sacrament, and this whole conversation has put me very much in mind of how does the sacrament infuse itself into our being, and it really is through an emotional experience. Everything that's ever meant anything to me about being around the Eucharist has been carried by an emotional foundation, if you flowing of the waters. And the Queen of Cups is the masteress, the feminine mastery of the emotions. And she's got very good reason, I believe, to be really bowing her head in reverence to the sacrament. And the sacraments need to be protected. They need to be covered. You will see a lot of action in the Mass of covering the sacrament. Of course, I can easily just say, well, you want to keep the flies from flying down into the consecrated wine, but to be enclosed as something precious, and that's really what this this chalice that she holds with both hands. It's very much about something that is precious and is being not only protected, but adored by the angels who stand at each side of it, and her pious bowing of her head towards it. And so it's really ultimately a very, very pure emotional conveyance of the Most High. We've spoken about all the white, speaking about, what flows from the Most High in Kether. And this is very, very pure emotion. So with that, I will release to the banter.
I love the devotional tone that you brought to this, Brian, and it only makes me embarrassed to bring in another Star Trek reference. So, so at some point, and I think this was like a new one, like Star Trek, with Picard and them, but they're inadvertently taking away the ecosystem of this new life form that is not carbon based, and that is these little points of light. And they finally get a hold of the translator in the ship, and they want to insult the humans, and so they call them ugly bags of mostly water. So,
and the character that was spoken of earlier was played by Marina Sirtis, and her name, the character was Troy.
Yeah. But I'm talking about back old Star Trek, the empath. So she was an empath on the on that one with Picard, but back in the day with Shatner, they went to a planet that had like these empaths. Had this empath girl, and she was just on this couch feeling the pain of the world, and she couldn't even explain. She was just feeling. So, any of those can apply here. But if the moon can control the tides, then we of course are also controlled in the wateriness of our being and in our own physiology. And so this card, I think, speaks to that as well. So pardon my flippiness, but I just ugly bags of mostly water couldn't be left aside in this.
Da dee da 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 da.
Exactly.
Da, dee.
And if that was an allusion to how emotional human beings are, that could be even more insightful.
Yes, indeed.
It's also interesting to look at the angels there, because they are also looking at two skies as in the death card. If you the shape of them.
They're also looking at the cup, aren't they? These angels. The
Yes,
little-
yes, they are. They are.
that
And also,
direct point, yeah.
I think it's interesting also that there are black angels also.
Right.
So there is a lot of Saturn in here also, and there is black in the chair also, in the back of the chair. And also the Lana was taking up that they are receiving, and if I'm not mistaken, the color scheme of the Golden Dawn, the other color schemes, some of those color schemes are receiving. So they are not at the Queen's scheme. It's not receiving. It's giving. It's giving out.
In the past, I've thought of this card as mostly very blue, but now I'm noticing quite a lot of green, both in the surface above the cliff, as well as within the water, and in the beautiful stones at her feet are that kind of sea glass green. So that's just a kind of going to the life force within the card, perhaps.
And thank you for reminding me of the cliffs of possibly Dover, but I think it illustrates that all Earth comes to its end at the waters.
And is the green that's behind her back to the right of the card, is that just a higher white cliff with more greenery above it?
Yeah.
Looks like it.
Yes.
Yeah. So are we going to do the nights on Saturday?
Correct. The nights. And if everybody will gaze upon the nights from their favorite decks between now and then, that would be splendid.
And
I got the Miller. Sorry, Jerry. I got the Myrrell, the AG Myrrell version of the deck. I can show one card so you can see the color schemes. You can take that one, the 9 of Pentacles.
Very bright.
Yes, it is. There is the original colors, but they have shapen the lines on it, and the back is the crackled.
Nice.
Yes, and I think it's look for it on Amazon. I think you can find it. It's the AGM Miller that has the AGM Urania. They are called, the printing house in Germany.
Urania?
Yes, Urania.
And by the way, next Wednesday, when we get to the pages, in the Robert Wang book, he says that those cards are more commonly called the princesses. And he notes here, one must finally comment that the weight pages and the knaves of the Marseille deck are both exotic, he says. So for whatever that's worth, maybe there's Maybe
Exotic
there's a lot of, we
journal.
should be on the lookout for feminine qualities when we get to those pages. And a lot of the pages in the weight deck look quite androgynous too.
In the Marcus Katz recommends some interpretations from this thing called the Feminist Tarot, which I got from a used bookseller off of Amazon, and it's got some really nice interpretations, but they definitely assert that the pages are princesses.
Right.
Well, Stefan spoke while I was editing these recordings and deriving chunks for us to listen to. As he got into the major arcanum, then he was really stressing that, you know, gender identity gets very, very diverse, shall we say. So there's, you know, we saw a rather androgynous, you know, Queen of Wands. And so be careful about really identifying, you know, gender as in people, male and female people, but understand that male and female or masculine and feminine energies, they are never very far apart from each other.
And I think that most people, maybe all people, have feminine aspects and masculine aspects to their being, and what their actual functioning gender is has feminine and masculine things to it, both. And personally, I think that that's a good thing.
Well, I think it's a conscious thing when we can experience all ways in which consciousness can flow and every benefit available therein. Yeah, I'm very happy with the fact that if I go to a movie, I have to have some hankies in my coat pocket because my emotions will flow, and you know, I would definitely feel like I'm out in outer space somewhere if I didn't have a strong emotional aspect. And emotions are considered feminine, and thinking is considered masculine. But everybody's got to have all of the functions active and cooperating. That's the goal. I think that's what Jung would call the wholeness, when all of the conscious possibilities are working together.
Now,
Well,
people, I think, are doing that.
Agree with that, and I would feel very bereft not to have the feminine parts of my personality.
I think that even in the expectation now, I think, is to be very explicit or inclusive in how people are identifying outwardly as well. So even in the tradition of picking a significator, I'm now trying to say, okay, well, which significator would you like? You know, would you like a king? Would you like a queen? You know, which one do you prefer? And that's very gender binary, and people are much more now trying to acknowledge and live publicly at some point along a continuum, which is constantly being clarified or broadened.
So maybe as we explore the nights and pages, we will take an androgynous or a diverse look at them as we go, because then we might be even better able to request, you know, what significator, and then to know, maybe have a better idea as to what is the setting that significator establishes.
Yeah, I think that you might choose to use a significator of the opposite of your identified gender, depending on what the querent's query is
Yes,
as well.
yes. This is the card, how it looks in the you see the face there, it's almost androgyne.
Yes.
And also if you're looking at the chalice, it's also pictured some animals in the chalice.
Oh, yeah. Like camels or something?
Yes. And also the crown is interesting because it's a pattern there also.
Nice. So
Yes.
the original line drawings have more emphasis in this deck.
Yes, yes.
And sometimes the actual figures are easier to see in the line drawings without the colors.
Yes.
Well, another productive evening, Brian. Thank you for bringing us together.
I have a question. If anybody noticed the children that are in 3 cards out of 4 that are depicted in the chairs, in the thrones. One is with the fish and with hand up, and he appears, the way I look at the emotions, he appears angry, or he or she. The other one, we determined that it's fearful. And the one that's in Queen of Swords, that's the one that has genuine smile. So I would be very interested if somebody has, not right now, it's late, but some has any ideas what the children are doing there. Why are they there?
Aren't they cherubims?
Yeah, but one, I don't know.
Mm.
I think
It's
The ones
still
on the cups appear to me to be, as I said before, mermaids.
Oh, yeah.
well, they're on the top, and the one that's on the bottom, it's but the face itself, it's just from angry to fearful to smiley on all on 3 thrones. So I'm just throwing a question that I'm interested in, if somebody knows the answer or finds it.
Okay.
I don't have any.
I read it in 2 ways. I read it that the secret creature for the element, and also I read it as the inner feeling of the character. And I see the one with the fish here, I see it's quite angry, but it's also quite lively in comparison with the Queen of Pentacles.
So the Queen of Cups, it looks angry to me. The other ones with Pentacles, that one looks fearful, I guess. We
Yes,
talked about.
yes.
Well,
Yeah.
the one on the Queen of Cups throne certainly isn't doing that fish any good. It looks like he might have his hand up in the air to like one.
Yeah.
Just a question. Okay.
All right, everybody, I am fading. I appreciate this evening and all of
Yeah.
our studies. I look forward to next time. I'll see you soon.
Yes. Good night.
I'd like to remind everybody that I know that I get thanked often for this, but I have to reiterate that without the work of Colin Burns, we wouldn't be here. And so please remember Colin and his work in creating this wonderful program that serves us so beautifully here, where we see all kinds of things we've never seen before because we've never really looked at them this big and blown up, and it's really a delight. And I thank all of you for your enthusiasm and participation, because it's really.
You know, Brian, why we haven't seen Colin lately?
'Cause the three
Well,
of them are-
we see him.
I know
we
it's a
see.
god awful time.
This is
Well, we see him on Saturdays, and
Right. Okay.
but he's very quiet. Even though he's been studying, he can show you his cassette copies of early Heller Tarot lectures. He's very shy. He wants to remain in the background, but he sure is in the thick of this. And without him, we wouldn't be here. I know without me, we wouldn't be here. And without Allison, we wouldn't be here, because Allison, I have to say, she and her breaking out the cards in our little garden in Atwater, the Atwater location of the Gnostic Society for some years, that's what really got everything rolling with the Tarot. And suddenly we were there was a number of us who could read Tarot, and we had a lot of readings, and that's where it all was born out of. So
I had no idea.
well, I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten just how central, Allison, your role was in the seeds, planting the seeds for what we are now enjoying.
Well, thank you very much. The couple of times that I've been up to Besant, it's been a loss not to have the little patio afterwards, to kind of go and hang out in. So hopefully that will be it. Maybe it's already been gotten back. I don't know.
Well, righto, everybody. Thank you all very much.
oh,
La próxima.
Bye.
Bye.
good night.
See you
Good
Saturday.
night.
Good night. Wow, did everybody leave that quick?